The most interesting movie technique that often generates a sense of constant wonder within the viewer is that of an unreliable narrator. Whether it be a film like American Psycho, Gone Girl, or Fight Club, these characters essentially are intended to gaslight you, taking you on the path of possibly making you empathize with them. But when you objectively analyze the same person in context to their surroundings and the perspective of other characters, you realize that they have more problematic traits as they would want you to know. I am already preempting the typical comment regarding this show of somehow someone saying, Jamie, isn't it hypocritical from your end when you shed light on the toxicity and regressive qualities of Indian films but celebrate a show like you? And for this particular criticism, I have a response. The context of both the things are completely different. While the connotation of the regressive Indian films that I talk about are intended by the creators to celebrate those same acts as heroic, eventually leading to the man to get the girl, targeted at viewers to root for their union despite their toxic ways in a happily ever after, a show like You on Netflix has clarity from the onset that Joe is a sociopathic killer who does not have the ability to love. Even after he meets his match, like love, he is drawn to another target, solidifying the fact that this man will constantly keep seeking for the next thing to fix, while leading a bloody trail behind him that will eventually come biting him in the ass. When things are told from Joe's POV in You, they are intentionally trying to manipulate the viewer as it is the perspective of a sociopathic killer. All characters around him are victims, but because it's his perspective, he convinces you that essentially he is the victim and is suffering. The intention and connotation of both things is extremely different, and I hope you understand this nuance rather than jumping on the bandwagon to hate me if you haven't seen the show. Just like Joker, we as a viewer were not rooting for him to kill more innocent people. Similarly, we know Joe will have to pay as his acts are no way portrayed as noble or heroic. Who knew that while he is cornered in season 2 and is repenting for his sins and takes ownership of his mistakes, that his match, probably more demonic than him in the form of love, will come to rescue him and do all the dirty work for him. I honestly burst out laughing when Love communicated this at the end of season 2.
We're soulmates, Joe.
What the fuck?
So you know that the dude who has killed so many people, who identifies the monster within Love and judges her for the same, who should technically have no say in the matter because he is not some Doodh ka Dhula, has some serious issues. Before I get into season 3 and all the craziness that happened within it, you do have to tell me in the comments below what you liked about this season, what you did not find engaging or convincing at all, and what were your favorite moments from the events that took place. We now follow Joe and Love with their new son who have moved to the suburbs of Midra Linda that is extremely insular from a social perspective, and both the characters try to assimilate and blend within the community, while of course unexplainably gravitating towards their previous toxic ways. I absolutely love the screenplay and writing of the show. It has been so meticulously designed to both hook you before the title card presents itself and to draw you in with an interesting cliffhanger at the conclusion of each episode. I mean, when season 2 ended, come on, everyone was just waiting for what escapades these two characters will go on. I have to say that beyond its crazy, wild and intentional over-the-top pitch, a lot of people don't give credit to the compelling and addictive writing of this series that is both hilarious and thought-provoking. The series is packed with homages to interesting classic films and novels that are a treat for cinema enthusiasts and bookworms respectively, something that maybe is completely missed by some viewers. So whether it be 40 and Joe's writing session and drug binge that was clearly a dedication to Stanley Kubrick's Shining, the obsession with the concept around Anton Chekhov's knife or gun where every element in the story, if first showcased, should have a purpose further on, and my favorite, You Season 2's conclusion. Literally being the conclusion of Gone Girl if you think about it. The movie homages or references to films and books carries on in this season. Whether it be Say Anything, Basic Instinct, Joe methodically stalking right next to a shelf of Scott Landon, there is a lot of attention to detail and foreshadowing, which is a treat to watch for any viewer. What I love about this season was that Joe's disguise of a simple hat was not as elusive as it was in previous seasons. I would literally laugh at the fact that he would be stalking people thinking that he is not recognizable, but the fact that in this season he is caught being a creep and is shocked that people notice his movement was quite hilarious. Let me know if you felt the same way as well. You know a character is batshit crazy when his assessment of the world is philosophical and layered, but his self-assessment just borders on delusion. This creates a beautiful synergy that tugs at opposite ends and creates a very entertaining show. He labels his own wife as a monster, judges her for killing while himself being a murderer, considers the slightest contact or interaction with the opposite sex as flirting or an invitation for him to stalk them, justifies stalking individuals just to convince himself that they are not special. The dude is absolutely crazy, and we don't root for him to get away with his invasive ways all the time. His clock is honestly ticking, and probably the only thing that I can empathize with him is his analysis of how a population treats books is a harbinger of a generation's fate, and the horror in his eyes to even comprehend reading a novel on a Kindle. Shots were fired, but he has a point, doesn't he? The series provides a commentary on a lot of aspects of our society today. I love the fact that it put into context that the world went through a pandemic, the guidelines of which seem to be ignored by the rich and privileged. It sheds light on the ignorant bubble in which so many people grow. I mean, let's be honest, nothing reeks of ignorance and privilege more than the visuals of a book launch, free wine, and IGTV videos being shot with a ring light. The season sheds light on the voyeuristic tendencies of strangers to be invested in tragedies, shedding light on the concept of the missing white woman syndrome. This also happening while the internet has been obsessed with the real-life case of Gabby Petito, something that you may have read about, where there is national attention given to missing cases, especially when it is regarding an upper-class, attractive white female. The series further provides a take on the anti-vax movement and the ramifications it has on the environment, gender stereotypes, toxic masculinity, the confines in which men are defined, the sensationalism and nature of media, the surface-level nature of most relationships in this day and age, where there is constant interest in approval and clout. It honestly just invested me right from the onset. I do think that there is merit to the criticism where the cheesiness of the lines and the way the characters interact with one another gets kind of uncomfortable. I mean, there is intentional cheesiness, but then there is straight discomfort. Whether it be the way Theo's character is introduced, the return of the statement, "I wolf you," that made me cringed when it was first said, a drug dealer that thinks age is arbitrary and he doesn't want to be defined within those confines, a little on-the-nose description of how the Gen Z are, and finally, what took the cake was probably an archery showdown. Let me know if you felt also that while you were loving every bit of this show, the campy nature of it probably took center stage in some cases. I have to say that I was blown away by the character arcs and how I slowly fell in love with some of the characters and their dynamics. You always seem to have 2 or 3 episodes in this show's seasons where it takes a trippy route with a character. So whether it be the white clothes wearing cult-like ceremonies in season 2 with the Quinn family, in this season we get a very beautifully designed men's excursion into the woods that seems superficial from the onset but really develops into making a point beautifully. There is a fever dream sequence also in this season that captured Joe's inner dialogue so well, making me fall in love with the thought process that the creators had from a screenplay perspective. I mean, 2 episodes in and I wanted to punch Sherry the momfluencer. But as the season developed, I actually thought that Sherry and her husband became one of the most enjoyable characters of season 3. Their conviction of the absurdity is what definitely took the cake for me. Let me know if you were also shocked about the evolution of these characters. Even Theo, a character I was kind of annoyed with initially, grows on you, and your assessment of a place like Midra Linda similarly evolves from disgust to understanding why people have put such a garb on to be functioning in such a toxic environment. I have to say that I'm a shameless simp for Victoria Pedretti, and she is the best performer of season 3. Don't get me wrong, Joe is literally written for Penn Badgley. I mean, the evolution of an actor like him from Gossip Girl to the conviction that he brings to Joe is something to marvel at. But it was the psychotic and obsessive tendencies of Love that really draw you in this season. I mean, I won't lie, I was kind of annoyed of Love's impulsive ways this season, but that is how the contrast of both the characters makes this show so engaging. A man who is methodical in his ways, has backup plans sorted in his head, and another one who just goes YOLO all the time. The toxic love affair between them and how their journey progresses in this season hooked me completely. I also won't lie about the fact that Beck just constantly annoyed me in season 1, whereas I enjoyed the dynamic between Love and Joe way more. Victoria honestly steals the show this season. I won't give anything away about the way this season concludes, but did the creators speak to the Haseen Dilruba creators as well? I know it's funny, but when you see the conclusion, you will create a parallel which is insane. This is a show that divides audiences, some who absolutely love it and are hooked, and some who are not interested to being invested at all. And it is what it is. I'm definitely a Netflix stan who sometimes even plays it as white noise because its sequences are so much fun to see again. Is that borderline problematic? Is my obsession with gore and violence something that needs to be checked? Probably, but we'll just move on. And I just have to reiterate that I'm really invested in what transpires in season 4. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about this season. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.